Kia ora, welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite, life coach. My co-host is Emma Dunning.
Austenite and insufferable know-it-all.
She's decided that her tone in the previous podcast was like she was lecturing us. So we're going to try not to do.
We're going to try not to do that, but also we have a serious soft spot for Hermione.
I mean, I do love Hermione, but talking about anything created by J.K. Rowling is problematic.
That's a topic for another podcast. All right, it's the character. I think.
Because we were both the smart girl at school.
Yeah, look, sometimes.
And we're like, look how smart I am. I'm so smart.
Sometimes you need an insufferable know-it-all on your little team of adventurers going across the desert with only a backpack containing 3 items.
Yes, because that person will know that you can get water from a cactus and the others won't. They will have no practical skills. Okay, no, they might have practical skills, just not knowledge skills.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we're probably going to need to know that particular fact in 19th century Sussex. We're still in Sussex. We're still at Norland here in Chapter 3.
In Chapter 3, Edward Ferrars appears. He's somehow a so much nicer guy than his sister Fanny. Wild. He and Elinor somehow just kind of fall in love. It happens off page. Mrs. Dashwood is convinced that they're going to get married because they love each other. But Marianne doesn't think that he's passionate enough to be worthy of her sister.
I think we should agree to keep calling her Mrs. Henry Dashwood until she and Mrs. John Dashwood are not in the same house.
Okay, you're going to have to remind me because I'm fully going to forget that. I'm also going to forget the Eleanor? That's like Eleanor.
There's only one in this book, so
I'm gonna
can't
forget.
Possibly get confused.
I'm going to forget to be Eleanor instead of Elinor.
Also, I think we need to acknowledge that it's not okay to call a woman by her husband's first name. We're only doing it because it was appropriate when this book was published. So, Mrs. Henry Dashwood, her first name is...
We don't know. I do not know that we are ever told Mrs. Henry Dashwood's first name.
Because the only people who would call her by her first name call her mother.
Yes.
Right. But we do know Mrs. John Dashwood's first name. She is Fanny.
Yes.
Because recycling names, there are only so many names in the 19th century.
So we might be able to guess at Mrs. Henry Dashwood's first name. It might be Eleanor, Marianne, or Margaret.
See, I thought it was Margaret.
We'll see when we get to chapters about Sir John because he might address her by her first name. Keep an eye out for that one.
Anyway, back to falling in love. Oh, growing attachment. We're in like paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Paragraph 4, they do fall in love very quickly. Jane Austen doesn't want to show us how this happens.
She doesn't introduce Edward till after saying that he and Elinor are into each other. Eleanor. I'll get there.
So she just calls him the brother of Mrs. John Dashwood.
And then the next paragraph introduces him. We start off with Mrs. Henry Dashwood's sentiments. She's started to get over her husband's death and started to exert herself to stop making herself upset all the time, as she and Marianne were, and started to look for somewhere else to live because living with Fanny and John is not fun. But then she starts to change her mind about leaving as quickly as she would like to because her eldest daughter, again not even named, and the brother of Mrs. John Dashwood were growing an attachment to each other. And then we move on from there to introducing Edward Ferrars, the brother of Fanny Dashwood.
So that's how we find that Fanny Dashwood's maiden name was Fanny Ferrars. Frances Ferrars. If your surname was Ferrars, would you call your daughter Frances?
But then their mother's a bitch, so...
We don't know that yet.
Look, this book has been out for more than 200 years. I'm pretty sure people know what happens. There will be spoilers. I was trying not to do spoilers for Lady Susan because a lot of people hadn't read it. If you haven't read Sense and Sensibility, what the hell are you doing here?
Frances, some people might have stumbled upon Sense and Sensibility for the first time and thought, this is quite tricky language. I wonder if there's a podcast out there that I can listen to as a companion to my first experience.
No, they would go and watch Emma Thompson's adaptation.
They might not watch Emma Thompson. I'm sorry. They're quite old.
I know that's true. The gold standard adaptation of Sense and Sensibility is Emma Thompson as Elinor, Kate Winslet as Marianne, and directed by Ang Lee.
And Greg.
Her husband is Willoughby. Yeah, that's where they met.
Oh, and Alan Rickman.
I know, I love Alan Rickman.
Oh, as Colonel Brandon. You haven't met him yet. Oh, he's lovely.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Alan Rickman, though? Though, apparently, if you're watching all of Alan Rickman's movies, you have to watch Love Actually and then Die Hard, because that's his punishment for cheating on Emma Thompson.
I love it.
So, Edward Ferrars is described as not handsome, and his manners required intimacy to make them pleasing. So he's awkward and not pretty. But once his natural shyness is overcome, he gives every indication of an open and affectionate heart. And he's not stupid, his understanding is good, and his education has given it solid improvement. This is not a winning description.
But we do know that he's rich.
He is the eldest son of a man who died very rich, but except for a trifling sum, which we find out later is only £2,000, all of his fortune is dependent on his mother. She gets to choose where that money goes. He may be the eldest son, but he may not get the money. He's not flashy enough for his mother and sister. They want him to cut a fine figure in the world, to be into politics, or at the very least, drive a flashy carriage called a barouche.
Unfortunately, he had no turn for great men or barouches. All his wishes centred on domestic comfort and the quiet of private life.
He's just a regular, nice guy. There's nothing particularly special about him. He's not the sort of person you would traditionally have as the love interest or hero in a novel.
Do you think that's because this is a novel about Elinor and Marianne? Most dominant characters are females, so we don't want it to be carried away by a dominant male.
Some people still want to say that Austen writes romances, but if you look at the relationship of just Edward and Elinor, I'll get there, in this novel, it doesn't read like a romance. We don't get the description of them falling in love. We just have Mrs. Dashwood noticing that they're interested in each other, and we don't have this big idea of Edward as this fantastic guy. He's always a little bit awkward, and then he buggers off for huge parts of the novel, and they don't get together till the very, very end. Apologies, spoiler. Oh, it's 200 years, deal with it. And even that isn't in the sort of romantic way you would expect.
Yeah, the most interesting relationship in this book is between Elinor and Marianne.
And their relationship highlights the differences in their personality and the way that they deal with things. They have a conversation in this chapter about Edward. Marianne, he's unlike his sister, that's enough. He sounds fantastic. I love this guy. Elinor says, once you get to know him, I think you genuinely will. And then they argue about what the difference is between liking somebody, esteeming them, and loving them. And that Elinor is a bit reserved about this, and she won't jump into using terms like love as quickly as Marianne does.
This just reminds me of Love is Blind. Some people will use love early. Does that mean less when it trips off your tongue, without knowing the person very well. Does that mean that in your lifetime you're going to say I love you to many more people and then retract it? Or if you are more cautious and you wait to say I love you until you're absolutely certain of it, and therefore you don't need to retract it when you get to know them better. It has more meaning when you do say it.
During this time period, telling somebody that you love them was often tantamount to a proposal of marriage.
Yes.
The two came hand in hand. You could not have affection for somebody of the opposite gender without intending to marry them.
Yes, because there's plenty of marriages without love.
Indeed, although often they may say that they love their partner because it was kind of the expected thing to do, like Mr. Collins saying that he has affection for Elizabeth because that's the thing that you do when you propose. The violence of his affection. I've lost what the question was.
The difference between like love and esteem and people who say I love you early as soon as they feel a strong emotion, and people who wait until they are certain.
When I was in school, you'd talk about liking somebody and it would be, do you like them or do you like them?
Yes.
And I suppose now people would say something like, do you love them or are you in love with them? And that's kind of the difference. Also because you love your friends, you love your family, but that's a different love than the romantic love that people would have for partners. I'm going to go into another spoiler. I'm sorry, I know you're going to tell me off. Marianne and Willoughby never tell each other that they love each other.
Yes, because that's all tied up with were they engaged? Because if he'd said I love you, they would have been engaged.
And he's very careful to skirt around the issue because he understands the importance of that word.
I love how you make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
I adore you.
Oh, that's incredibly painful to think about, actually. Gosh. A Willoughby character in modern times would say that he loved somebody. He's a classic love bomber, telling people that he loved them really soon and showing all these big affectionate things with no actual basis to it. Some people can say I love you early and mean it, but that's not always the case. Some people think they mean it at the time and then realize as they get to know somebody that no, they were infatuated. That's a different thing. I don't use the word love lightly.
Marianne should know that Elinor would not use the word love lightly. Marianne should know that Elinor would not declare love until she was prepared to get engaged to somebody.
She should.
She is only 17?
And consider that Mrs. Dashwood decides that Edward and Elinor are in love with each other, and she immediately decides that they are going to be married. She says to Marianne, in a few months, Elinor's going to be settled.
You feel that Elinor would be holding off her mother getting ahead of herself?
And that Marianne is following the same path as her mother. Any kind of affection obviously means love, obviously means marriage, and maybe it's a trope around women because this is a thing that Darcy brings up in Pride and Prejudice. I said that I was attracted to her. You jumped from admiration to love to marriage. Perhaps during this time period, that's what was expected because you couldn't do much more than admire somebody before marriage.
Well, you could.
You shouldn't.
Not and keep your reputation.
No. There are certain things that you could potentially do, and there was a lot of leeway given to engaged couples, which is part of the reason why it was scandalous to break an engagement. because you could have got up to stuff.
And why a woman who had previously been engaged was a bit suspicious.
Potentially.
Mrs. Henry Dashwood continues to jump ahead of herself. We shall live within a few miles of each other. She's already...
How do you expect that to happen?
She's already chosen a house for herself within a few miles of Norland and has Edward living at Norland, which on both accounts is a big assumption.
But Marianne doesn't think that Edward's up to scratch. He's amiable and she does say she loves him. I love him tenderly, but there's something wanting. When he was reading, it was spiritless. Music scarcely seems to attract him. He doesn't admire art in the right way. He knows nothing about it.
What Edward's displaying here is a lack of sensibility, the capacity for responding to aesthetic stimuli.
There you go. But I bet that he finds Elinor aesthetically pleasing. He doesn't say it.
No, he's probably just attracted by her sensible mind.
I'm reasonably sure that Edward has the hots for Elinor. She is not the prettiest. Marianne's the prettiest.
He'd be scared by Marianne.
Yeah, because she's so intense. And that's literally what Mrs. Dashwood says. Marianne does use the word sensibility. It would have broke my heart had I loved him to hear him read with so little sensibility. She makes a great kind of prophecy. The more I know of the world, the more I am convinced that I shall never see a man whom I can really love. I require so much. In Pride and Prejudice, there's a similar line. The more I see of the world, the more I am dissatisfied with it, and every day confirms my belief of the inconsistency of all human characters and the little dependence that can be placed on the appearance of either merit or sense.
Oh, you're quizzing me, and I'm not sure who says it. Oh, was it Mary?
Do you want me to actually tell you? That's
Yes.
a Lizzie.
Mm-hmm.
But the differences between Marianne and Lizzie, one of them is that much more mature, saying the more I see of the world, that I'm dissatisfied with the people. Marianne, who is so much younger in age and maturity, saying the more I know of the world, I'm convinced I'll never see a man who will meet my requirements. She doesn't know anybody yet. She's barely left Norland.
We don't know that.
True. But she is only 17.
That's likely she's barely left Norland. I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
I'm looking up esteem. It comes from the Latin word for estimate. So that's a measuring word. The main number one meaning is to have great respect or high regard for.
So it's measuring the level of your respect and regard?
It's measuring your regard. How much regard have I got for this person? And to esteem them is for that regard to be high. It's also good opinion. So you could have low esteem for someone or high esteem for someone. If you just leave off the low or high, it's assumed to be high.
How do you think that relates to love?
It's a very mind word. I think that's possibly why Marianne hates that word so much, because it's a thinking word, not a feeling word.
Is that perhaps part of the difference that we're seeing between the characters, that one is more thinking and one is more feeling?
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that again in Mrs. Dashwood, because as soon as she thinks that they're into each other, she's all excited and run away with by her feelings that they're going to get married. Austen specifically says that some mothers might have encouraged the intimacy from motives of interest because the money that he gets, and that others might have repressed it from motives of prudence because that money is not secured to him.
Right.
But Mrs. Dashwood leads with her feelings. She doesn't think that difference of fortune should keep people apart. And also, Eleanor's amazing. Who wouldn't want to have her as part of their family?
And she likes Edward and wants Elinor to be happy.
That too. She's not the sort of mother that would encourage her daughters to marry without affection. Even if it were to secure their future.
Absolutely. That idea would be repugnant to her, I'm sure.
She doesn't have much of an idea about money, which is part of the problem. They're going to have £10,000, she and the girls between them, which ends up being £500 per year to support 4 people, which is not a lot of money. Mrs. Dashwood at Norland used to have £4,000 a year plus whatever Henry Dashwood had from his previous wife. And this comes up again later in the story when Marianne and Elinor are talking about what counts as fortune and what's enough to live on. Amount that Elinor thinks is a fortune is the amount that Marianne thinks is just enough to live on.
So, remind me, what is that amount?
£2,000.
In total or per annum?
Per annum.
£2,000 per annum. That's quite a lot.
As rich as to Elinor, but to Marianne's like, no, that's the basic that we need to live on. Whereas Mrs. Dashwood is kind of the other way about money, going, no, we don't need much. It's all good. We'll be fine. And Eleanor's the one going, no, you can't rent that house. We don't have enough money to rent it. Later, when they get to Barton, saying, it's fine. When the year tips over, I'll have lots of spare money to do all the renovations I want. And Eleanor's like, no, you really won't. But that's okay. You keep thinking that. We do experience some of Marianne's sensibility about poetry. She's talking about Edward reading very calmly. She could hardly keep her seat to hear those beautiful lines which have frequently driven me wild. How can he speak so calmly about something that's fantastical, to not be animated by Cooper? It would have broke my heart. You're supposed to enjoy things to the max. It should be driving you wild with passion, not just calmly reading or listening.
I don't need all the voices done, but to have someone read in a monotone, something that you are fond of, right? They own this book. Cooper is Jane Austen's favourite poet. So we're assuming this is a favourite volume. To have someone stumble over the words and put the line breaks in the wrong place for a poem you're familiar with would be pretty infuriating.
We do need to remember the description of Edward's character, though. He's pretty shy. So having to read in front of everybody was probably really uncomfortable for him.
I'm just talking about the product.
Is that fair? But not everybody can read.
I get that, but it would still be pretty irritating to have someone read badly.
It's like someone...
I told you there was some sensibility in my sense, right?
Fine. It's like someone singing who's actually tone deaf. I've only ever once come across someone that was tone deaf.
Oh, you haven't heard me sing.
No, literally tone deaf. They could not alter anything.
Or like a Gregorian chant.
I was kind of shocked. I didn't know that it was actually a thing that people could be tone deaf. I just thought it was a thing that you say, but apparently no. I'm going to make you sing. Well, not while we're recording.
There is 0 chance of me singing while we're recording.
And that's our discussion of Chapter 3 of Sense and Sensibility. I've been Frances Duncan, and this has been Emma Dunning. Thank you for listening. We wish you happy reading.
They might watch Anya Taylor-Joy.
Nope, that's Emma.
Oops.
They might watch the Netflix one.
I'm going to have to go back and take Austenite.
Off your title.
Off my title. Yeah.
They might watch the 2022 adaptation on Netflix, which some people have referred to as a travesty. No, wait. No, that's not Sense and Sensibility. That's Persuasion. What am I talking about?
Oh, is that the one with Dakota Johnson in it?
Yes. I don't know if I should keep this in. I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll cut it and put it at the end.
We both do.
I mean, neither of us know what we're talking about.